You know, for all of human history, we've looked up. We've charted the constellations, we've named the distant worlds, and we've sent our little probes out into the cold vacuum of space, right? All of it just searching for answers, for life, for, I don't know, a reflection of ourselves in that great cosmic dark. We are absolutely drawn to the unknown. But what if I told you that the largest, the least explored, and let's be honest, the most alien frontier isn't light years away? What if I told you it's right here on our own planet, beneath our feet? Right under this deceptively calm surface lies a world that occupies over 95% of the planet's living space. It's a realm of eternal night, of pressures that can literally crush steel, and it's home to life forms so strange they just defy our wildest imaginings. I've been on expeditions where the submersible starts its descent and you watch the world, just dissolve. The sunlit blues, they fade to violet, then to a kind of gray, and then finally to an absolute, impenetrable black that feels, well, it feels ancient. It's a journey into another reality. And it's down there, in that silent abyss, that a ghost resides, a creature so vast and so elusive, it's remained a myth for over a century. So today, we're gonna dive into that abyss to meet a phantom, an animal that really embodies the profound mystery of our own world, the giant phantom jelly. So, here's how we're gonna break this down. First, we're gonna uncover a mystery that has spanned more than a century. I mean, it's the story of how a creature this enormous can stay a ghost in our modern age. Then, we'll explore what I'm calling the anatomy of the abyss, all the remarkable ways this animal is perfectly engineered for a life in total darkness. After that, we'll discover its most surprising role as a living, floating sanctuary in the middle of a void. And finally, we're going to confront the really urgent questions of this unseen frontier. Why is this creature so incredibly rare, and what's at stake as we finally begin tossing the light into that darkness? Alright, let's dive in. Part 1, A Century of Mystery. You see, the story of our phantom, it doesn't begin with some stunning video from a modern submersible. No, it starts with a crude net dragged blindly through the depths over 125 years ago. The early days of oceanography were, well, a pretty brutal and hopeful business. You had scientists on these pitching decks, hauling up nets from thousands of meters down, and often they find little more than mud and a few mangled, gelatinous specimens, totally unrecognizable after their violent journey up to the surface. It was in one of those nets that the very first piece of our phantom was found. But here's the thing, a fragment of an animal tells you almost nothing. It's like finding a single clue from a crime scene the size of a planet, and to really understand the scale of that crime scene, just consider this startling fact, and I'm not exaggerating here. We have 100% high-resolution maps of the surfaces of the Moon and Mars. We know their topography, every single valley, mountain, and crater, we know it intimately. Yet for our own world, a planet that's over 70% ocean, only about 27% of the seafloor has been mapped to a similar resolution. And that's just the bottom. The water column above it, the actual place where things live, is almost entirely unexplored. We are, in so many ways, strangers on our own planet. The greatest discoveries, they're not waiting for us out in the stars, they're waiting for us right here in the deep. This is the creature that haunts that unexplored world, Stygiomedusa gigantea. And believe me, a name has never been more fitting. Let's just break it down for a second, because the name itself tells a story. Stygio comes from the river Styx, the mythological river that was the border between the world of the living and the underworld. Medusa, of course, for that classic jellyfish form, a head of what looked like writhing appendages. And then Gigantea, which is just Latin for gigantic. So its name quite literally means the gigantic Medusa from the river of the dead. And trust me, scientists do not give out names like that lightly. It tells you everything you need to know about the chilling, absolutely awe-inspiring impression this animal makes when it just materializes out of an infinite blackness right in front of your view. The history of this creature is a profound lesson in just how difficult deep-sea science really is. So, that first specimen, that little piece of something unknown, was collected way back in 1899. But think about this, it took another 60 years, a full 60 years, until 1959, for it to even be formally described and recognized as its own species. 60 years. That gap, it isn't about slow science, it's about the sheer impossibility of the task. Back then, for 6 decades, that first specimen was just a ghost in the archives, a whisper of a giant. And that's because the animal had simply vanished back into its inaccessible world, leaving scientists to wonder if they would ever see a complete one. And this number just illustrates the point perfectly. Since that very first discovery, in over a century and a quarter of global ocean exploration, with all of our modern technology, we have confirmed only about 130 sightings. Just let that sink in for a minute. To put that in perspective, the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute, MBARI, is one of the world's leaders in deep-sea exploration. They've sent their robotic vehicles on thousands of dives over nearly 3 decades. In all that time, they have encountered the phantom jelly just 9 times. This isn't just a rare animal, it's an event. It's a living ghost that reminds us just how vast and how full of secrets our oceans still are. Okay, so what is this creature that has managed to elude humanity for so long? Let's move on and really look at the animal itself, its anatomy. Because to truly understand the phantom jelly, you have to appreciate that it is an absolute masterclass in deep-sea adaptation. Every single feature of its body has been sculpted by the extreme pressures, the perpetual cold, and the absolute darkness of its home. This is an animal that was truly built for an eternal night. Now, when you picture a jellyfish, you probably imagine something kind of delicate. Maybe it's bioluminescent, trailing a web of fine, stinging tentacles, right? Well, you can forget all of that. Just throw it out. The phantom jelly tore up that evolutionary blueprint and went down a completely different path. It has no stinging tentacles. 0. It's not translucent, it's deeply pigmented, so it absorbs all light. And maybe most surprisingly, in a world where we think something like 76% of creatures create their own light to survive, it produces none. It's the complete opposite of a typical jellyfish. It's something else entirely, a creature that evolved to embrace the darkness, not to pierce it. So, if it has no stinging tentacles, how does it hunt? The answer is actually surprisingly simple. It doesn't really hunt in the way we think of it. It's a massive, drifting ambush predator. Instead of tentacles, it has these 4 incredibly thick, fleshy appendages called oral arms. Now, these aren't thin threads, they are muscular, flowing extensions of its mouth. Its whole strategy is one of pure opportunistic stealth. It just drifts through the darkness with these 4 arms trailing around it like enormous, fleshy curtains. Any unsuspecting fish or crustacean that just happens to bump into this living net gets enveloped, trapped against the bell, and slowly digested. There's no chase, no venom, just silent, patient envelopment in the cold dark. And when we say Gigantea, we really mean it. The bell, that's the main body of the jelly, can be over 1 meter wide, some more than 3 feet across. But the arms... oh, the arms can trail for up to 10 meters, that is 33 feet. To give you some scale, that is longer than a standard city bus. So I want you to imagine you're in a submersible, thousands of feet down in absolute blackness, and this silent, bus-sized creature with 4 enormous flowing ribbons just drifts past your window. It is, without a doubt, one of the largest invertebrate predators in the entire ocean, a true giant of the abyss. Everything about its anatomy is engineered for stealth. That deep reddish-brown color? It's not for show. It's the ultimate camouflage. You see, in the deep ocean, the only sunlight that penetrates at all is at the blue end of the spectrum. Red light gets filtered out in the first few hundred meters. So if you have a red object this deep, it absorbs all the blue light and reflects nothing back. To any eye down there, it appears perfectly black. The phantom jelly is a void within a void. It's virtually invisible. Add to that its lack of bioluminescence. In a world of fantastic light shows, it is a silent, dark hunter. And maybe most fascinating of all, its skin contains these pigments called porphyrins. These are compounds that, if they're exposed to sunlight, actually become toxic. So it is biologically shackled to the darkness. It literally cannot survive in the world of light. Now, to truly appreciate this animal, you have to understand the world that forged it. As you can see, the challenges are pretty extreme. It lives in what's called the bathypelagic zone, or the midnight zone. Its range starts at about 1,000 meters, but it's been spotted as deep as 6,600 meters down. So, first, there's the pressure. At these depths, the pressure can exceed 600 atmospheres. That's 600 times the pressure we feel at the surface. It is enough force to implode a modern military submarine like a soda can. Second, the temperature. It is perpetually just a few degrees above freezing, a constant, chilling 2 to 4 degrees Celsius. That slows metabolism down to a crawl. And third, the light. There is none. Zero sunlight penetrates this deep. It's a world of absolute, crushing, cold darkness, punctuated only by biological fireworks of its inhabitants. Every single part of this creature has been engineered by this brutal, beautiful world. But here's where the story takes a really fascinating and unexpected turn. Because in the deep sea, survival is rarely a simple story of just predator and prey. While Stygiomedusa is a formidable hunter, it also plays another, much gentler role. In the vast, empty darkness, this giant ghost has become something truly remarkable, a living island, a mobile sanctuary. So, let's explore how this phantom of the deep is also an unlikely haven. You have to understand, the midwater of the deep ocean is a featureless void. There is no ground, there are no coral reefs, no kelp forests. For a small animal, there is almost nowhere to hide. It's just a vast, three-dimensional desert of black water. And in an environment like that, any physical structure, a piece of drifting wood, a whale carcass, or yes, even the body of a giant jellyfish, becomes incredibly valuable real estate. It's a landmark in a landmarkless space. It's a place to anchor, a place to hide, a tiny mobile ecosystem right in the middle of nowhere. And this brings us to one of the most amazing discoveries about the phantom jelly. Back in 2004, researchers Jeffrey Drajan and Bruce Robison from Bari, they documented this for the very first time. Using their ROVs, they repeatedly observed a specific fish, the pelagic brachyla, doing something absolutely incredible, living amongst the phantom jelly's massive oral arms. The fish literally uses the giant jelly as a shield, gaining protection from predators in a world with no other cover. It's a classic example of what we call commensalism. The fish benefits enormously, and the jelly, well, it doesn't seem to be harmed or helped at all. And what's even more remarkable is that if the fish gets separated, it can actually find its way back. A tiny creature navigating a vast, dark ocean to find its one-of-a-kind mobile home, most likely by sensing the tiny water currents from its host's pulsing bell. Pretty incredible, right? So, this brings us to the final part of our journey. This creature has been found in every major ocean on Earth, from the Antarctic to the tropics. The only place it hasn't been seen is the Arctic. So, if it lives in every ocean, why is it practically a ghost? And as we finally begin to explore its world, what do we stand to lose? Well, there are three core reasons for its phantom status. First, its simple inaccessibility. Reaching its home requires these multi-million-dollar vessels and robotic submersibles that are engineered to withstand forces that just defy imagination. Every single dive is a massive, expensive, and often dangerous undertaking. Second is the sheer, mind-boggling vastness of its habitat. The deep ocean is the largest biome on Earth by volume. Finding one individual is like trying to find a specific grain of sand in a desert, in 3 dimensions and in the dark. And third, its fragility. Its body is gelatinous, so even if you do find one, trying to capture it for study without it just disintegrating is almost impossible. These three factors combine to make every single sighting an extraordinary and precious event, and this is why understanding this world is now so urgent. The phantom jelly is an ambassador from a world that is now under threat from forces it has never ever encountered. The prospect of deep-sea mining for minerals could obliterate entire habitats, burying creatures like this in sediment. Climate change is warming the oceans and altering their chemistry right down to the abyss, disrupting the fragile food web. And our pollution, plastics and chemicals, is now found in the deepest trenches on Earth. A creature this fragile, adapted to an environment that's been stable for millennia, is uniquely vulnerable to these sudden, human-driven changes. I want to come back to this comparison because it is, I think, the most important takeaway from our entire journey. Just consider what this data really means. We have completely mapped the surfaces of other worlds, yet less than a third of our own planet's ocean floor is mapped in any kind of detail. And when it comes to actually seeing it, to visually exploring the life within it, we are at less than 1/1000th of 1%. The fact that a 10-meter-long animal can exist globally and remain a virtual myth for over a century is the ultimate proof of this. The great age of exploration? It isn't over. Its greatest frontier is right here. And this is really the crux of the issue. We're being forced to make decisions about mining, fishing, and climate policy for an ecosystem we barely know exists. How can we protect what we don't understand? We are in a desperate race against time, a race to discover, to understand, and to document these incredible life forms and their fragile habitats before our own actions change them forever. Before we lose wonders we never even knew we had. So, we end where we began, in the presence of a profound mystery. The giant phantom jelly is so much more than just a strange and wonderful creature. It's a symbol. It's a ghostly ambassador from a world we have barely touched. It forces us to confront the staggering scale of our own ignorance, and it leaves us with the most exciting and maybe the most terrifying question I can think of. If a 10-meter predator can remain hidden in plain sight for over 125 years, what else is down there in the silent, crushing dark, waiting to be found? And as we finally develop the tools to find out, will we have the wisdom to protect it?